Mic check 1 2. Hello. What is up, everyone? Welcome to the very first and most exciting episode of the Goldi Luxe podcast. Welcome. Here we are. Today's episode, we have a very juicy catch up on everything that's been going on in my life, and we're going to talk about Lovers and Friends Festival, breast augmentation, my ER visit. So yeah, make sure to stick around and see what we got. Okay. So how do I even start this episode? First off, this is my setup. It's temporary. I just finished filming my breast augmentation journey video, and I'm very excited to finally get that up. That's been a goal of mine for the last 2 weeks, to get that up on my YouTube channel. And if you don't know, I have a YouTube channel, and I am Cinthia Osuna on YouTube. It's just my first and last name. That is spelled Cinthia. I know, it's Cinthia with an I. I know it's a little different. It's usually spelled CY, but I'm CI. And yeah, last name is Osuna. OSU. N as in Nancy. A as in Apple. That's always how I reiterate it to people all over the phone. But yeah, if you ever hear a little bit of kind of like an accent, it's because English is not my first language. So to most people, a lot of people actually, they might not know that English is not my first language. And Spanish was my first language. I am Mexican. I am a Latina woman, 29 years old. For those of you that don't know, I was born in 1994. October 9, 1994. That is my birthday. And so yeah, I can't believe I'm gonna be 30 years old. But anyways, yeah, Spanish is my first language, so sometimes my pronunciation in English might be a little off, and it's been like a whole life thing. I'm working on it. I do my best to pronunciate English words, the best way that I can. But sometimes when I'm tired, sometimes you'll hear me kind of just like not pronounce things correctly, so I'm sorry. All right, so that was my little intro, and now we can go ahead and skip over to talking about my breast augmentation. So boob job. So I got my boobs done April 24th, and everything was going very well. I went fully into detail on my breast augmentation journey video that's on YouTube before this podcast comes up. And it started off pretty bad because I actually went to another doctor before I went to this one, the one that did my breast augmentation. I went to another doctor. Mind you, I had to take a flight to California because this doctor I found was in Fresno, California. I know, so random. But the reason for that is because I saw this girl's YouTube video, and her breast augmentation looked so good. And when she explained that she got saline implants, I was like, whoa, your doctor was able to get that size, make them look that good, and they were saline implants. I was so impressed. So I don't know why I didn't do more research and didn't talk to more doctors, but I immediately used some credit card points to book my flight to Fresno, and I was there in my first consultation. And this first doctor kind of made it sound like it was all good. I don't know, there was a vibe to him. There was a little bit of ego that I sensed from him. He was kind of like this, arms crossed, kind of on his high horse or whatever. And he was trying to explain to me the benefits of he wanted to go saline on my implants. And I told him that was part of my non-negotiables. I did not want to do saline. I wanted to do silicone implants. So anyways, I left, and they did the whole measuring thing. They did put me on a 3D scanner thing to show me before and afters, possible looks based on different implants they could put in me. Anyways, so I felt pretty good, pretty confident. After my first consultation, I felt like we had gone over everything and that we were on the same page. So that's the main thing. I thought we were on the same page with this first doctor, and it turns out we weren't on the same page. And the reason I say that is because, like, here I go on my second consultation. I am in Fresno. I booked a hotel and everything that was like 3-minute walk from their office. There I was in Fresno. I had cash in hand to give to them. Okay. I usually try not to talk about money just because I feel like it's like a very personal thing, but it's the first podcast. I'll just kind of let myself do that on this episode. But so I had $3,000 cash in my purse, ready to give to this doctor as a down payment on my surgery to that way it helps to ensure your surgery date by putting down a down payment. And I had it in my purse. So I get there, things are kind of weird, and they sit me down and everything, and like the nurse weighs me again, asks me how I lost any weight, did you gain any weight? And I told her maybe I lost a little bit. And anyways, the doctor finally comes in, and I again sense like a very like egotistical vibe from him. He's like, again, arms crossed, and he's just, I don't know, he seems very prideful. And but you know, I was trying to be friendly and whatnot, and eventually, after this super long-winded explanation and talk that, mind you, we had beforehand on the first consultation, he ultimately said, I think you should let me, I think we should go with saline implants, because they can just put in an empty bag in there, and then he can like blow it up and put water in it as it is in me already. So that way it's easier to like adjust the size of the implants, because I started off with uneven breasts, right? So my left was a cup, and then my right side was a B cup. So uneven breasts, he pretty much ended up telling me, I think we should go saline, that way it's easier for me to adjust. And I was just like in shock. Like my face was just like just plain blank face. Like I couldn't believe this man was like trying to pretty much like rewind from what we had talked about. I thought we were on the same page. We had a plan. He knew I wanted silicone. He knew I wanted volume. And he made me believe in the first consultation that he could do it. He was, he didn't say, no, that's too big, or he made me believe that he could do it. And after I took my time off of work, took a whole entire 2-hour flight to get to Fresno, booked a hotel, and just like all that traveling, and then I'm sitting there, cash in hand, ready to give it to this man to book my surgery date. And he ends up just like backing out, telling me like, oh, I think we should do it this other way. Like, I could not believe it. I was so upset. And another weird thing I noticed was that they had like turned the AC on in the room super high. Like that room was not cold, not chilly. That room got like freezing cold. Okay, I was in there like talking, and I was just like starting to tremble, and I felt like they were trying to set up an environment where he was telling me, I think, your breast size is too small. This implant size is not going to fit in you. And I felt like he was trying to like make it cold in the room, like extra cold, so that I would notice that, my skin would actually not expand as much as it needed to fit that implant. So he set up this whole like freezing cold environment to kind of like And you know, when it's cold, your skin like tightens, you know, it's just like, it doesn't have like that like flexibility. So I think he was trying to manipulate me and manipulate the environment to make me believe that he was right. When in reality, I felt like, no, he wasn't right. You know, I felt like he just had too much ego to admit to me that he didn't possess the skills to do the surgery the way I wanted it to be done. He wanted it to do it like the easy way, a way that would like facilitate for him to get the results, and he just didn't have the skills or the confidence to do it the way that I asked him to. You know, I wanted large implants, like larger than like 600 plus, and I didn't want it under the muscle. I had like all these qualifications, and like I didn't want it to be placed, the incision to be placed underneath the breast. I wanted it to be around the nipple, and I had all of these like challenges, I guess. And I don't know, instead of like owning up to the fact like, oh, I don't think I can do your surgery, maybe you should go to another doctor, he like just manipulated the whole situation to make himself sound and maybe even believe that he was right. So there I was, you know, just so upset and disappointed, and I immediately went back to Chase and put the money back immediately, because I wasn't going to be able to take that much money like on the airplane. They were like, TSA was going to stop me and be like, what the hell do you need all this money in cash for? Like, you know, it's like, what are you up to? So I didn't want that, so I put the money back in Chase, and I was just so disappointed and sad, and I felt like I was sitting back in square one in my hotel room, and it was just like one big sigh. I was like, oh, like, what do I do now? And so yeah, I went back to Seattle and just kind of took a step back, and it took a couple of weeks for me to finally be confident enough to start my search again, but this time to do it locally in the Seattle area. And I pretty much went through every single surgeon's website in Washington State or in West Washington. I went through everybody's like website. I did my research, and I went on Instagram as well to check these people's galleries and before and afters and whatnot, because what I was seeking was like the best of the best, of course. And I looked in Bellevue, I looked in Seattle, I looked in Kirkland, which is up north, like about 20 miles north of Seattle. I looked everywhere. So, and finally I come across this page, and it was recommended by the Google algorithm as like the top searches. And it said Dr. David Stevens' office, Bellevue, Washington. And I was like, I haven't checked out this website before. And I went on there, and it was so great. There was tons of information. There was so much information about like the surgery and about the doctor and about the anesthesiologist. They had one on in the office to do the surgery, which was so impressive to me, because you would be surprised, but these other doctors, these other surgeons that do all these surgeries cut corners, and to save money, they hire nurses, like a nurse that is licensed to give general anesthesia instead of actually hiring an actual anesthesiologist to give general anesthesia. So that's just to save money, cut corners, and this office, Dr. Stevens' office, did not do that. So I was very, very happy with that. And so I read everything. I go into all the details on my YouTube channel video, my breast augmentation journey. So yeah, I mean, I went for it. I got my breast augmentation surgery. I was so excited, and like the office, from like the very, very beginning, it felt like so welcoming. From the very, first step that I took into the office, the receptionist was nice. She had a bright smile. She was so warm and welcoming, and she, referenced me by my first name. And she was like, oh, like, what's your name? And I was like, oh, my name's Cinthia. And she's like, hi, Cinthia. Like, she was so sweet. And then I think she was like one of the coordinators in the office, but she welcomed me back onto the main room, and she was like, yeah, so like, what are your goals? Like, welcome to our office. And again, this other lady, she was so warm and welcoming as well. So immediately I felt like so good, so great. And I'm just like remembering, and it felt really good. I felt very important. I felt like they cared. And so that was a really good sign. And I finally get to meet Dr. Stevens. He's like, comes in, he's smiling, he's great. And he took his time to like listen to what I was looking for, what I wanted. I showed him the pictures. He had the Vectra 3D imaging system, which is where you stand like kind of like open arms, and they take a 3D picture. This machine takes like a 3D imaging scan of your chest, and that way like the AI in the system can like show you, okay, like it gave the doctor almost very precise measurements. He like freestyled measured me too, from like chest, like center of the chest to where's the nipple, like that's a measurement, and like center of the chest down like across, all these measurements. And it showed you a picture of like, if we put 500 milliliters on this side and 520 on this side, this is what you would look like. So the system showed you before and afters using the 3D technology, which was like super cool. And so I mean, all went well in my first consultation. I was very happy, and eventually I was able to put down my down payment to secure my surgery date with them. But from like beginning to end, it made me feel like just so comfortable, so heard. And to me, that goes a long ways, making people feel like you care, like they're important, and especially when it comes to surgery, which is, kind of an invasion of your body. It's a really big deal. So I feel like I needed to choose like the best of the best people. I was already going to commit thousands of dollars to getting the surgery done. I didn't mind like pitching in like a couple extra to make sure that I got like the best, most qualified people to do this very important surgery that I've wanted for a very, 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 very long time. Going on a tangent, talking about that, when I was 19 years old, my mom like took me to my very first breast augmentation consultation. And during that time, I was like seeing pictures, and I was getting really excited. And when it came down to like quoting me for the surgery, it was just way too much money. And at the time, neither of us could afford it. I could not afford that much money for a surgery. And so anyways, I ended up just forgetting about it, like, and just trying to make peace with my body. And I did that for a very long time. I was gonna say, I don't know if I should say this, but in this podcast, I want to be transparent with you guys, and I want you to get to know me as a person. So this might be TMI, but I'm gonna say anyways. I ended up getting my nipple pierced like super randomly when I was 22 or 23. I think I was 22. I was like really young, maybe even 21. Yeah, like around that time. But so early 20s, I was just like not feeling happy. I was skinny during that time because all I did was work out. I had tons of time to work out, even though I had a full-time job. But I was super fit. I was very petite back then, which made my breast size even smaller. So I was like looking at myself in the mirror, and I was like, I don't know if I love it. So I just told my roommate, I was like, hey, listen, I'm gonna go to the piercing shop and I'm gonna get this done. And she was like, I'm in the middle of finals, like I want to go with you, like wait for me. And I was like, no. And then she was like, wait, like can our other roommate go with you? And our other roommate was like, I'm studying for finals too. And she was like, Cynthia, you just wait until tomorrow and we can go with you to get your nipples pierced. And I was like, no, I gotta get it done right now. So there was this like one shop open in like downtown Everett. It's kind of like just a little sketchy. There was like one young woman and like 2 male workers, and one of the male workers was the one that ended up piercing my nipples. And I was just like, the pain was like a 10 out of 10. Okay, so my first nipple piercing, it was just awful, and he did not pierce all the way through on the first try. So he stopped, the needle was like halfway through my nipple, and then he went again, and I think I screamed. I was like, or I squealed, because I didn't want to scream and freak everybody out. And just like the pain, I felt like I was like in a Saw movie. You know, the Saw movies that are like gory and bloody and ugh, just makes you shiver. I felt like I was in one of those movies because the pain was just so bad and it was just so raw. But anyways, he was able to get the needle and the piercing through my first one, and then I was like, I don't think I can do the other one. And he looked at me, he was like, look, you're gonna look at your piercing and then you're just gonna regret and you're gonna want to do the other one. And I was like, oh my god, I was like, you're so right, but I'm like hurting so bad. Anyways, I suck it up and I'm like, okay, just go for it. And then the second one, it was equally as bad, maybe not as much as the first one, because he was able to just like quickly pierce through my other one. But I remember he did this one first, and then he did my smaller breast afterwards, and it was just like, woo. But guess what? Like afterwards, I was like, after all the pain left, and like, oh my god, wait, I had to like drive myself home after getting both of my nipples pierced, and it was just like so painful. And I was just like driving like this, like barely even like able to like turn because I was like in so much pain. And I don't remember how I slept that night. But anyway, so that's my story of how I got my nipple pierced randomly on a whim in a very sketchy shop in north downtown Everett. So there's that. But anyways, the piercings did help me kind of like embrace my breasts more, and I liked them way better. I thought they were like perkier and prettier, and that was good for a while, but they were hard to maintain, and I felt like my body was just rejecting the ring. So eventually, after like a year or two, a year and a half, I decided to just take them out, and then the holes closed, and yeah, I still have like a little scar of like 2 white dots on either side of my nipple, and that's from getting them pierced in my early 20s. So continuing on, my surgery date arrives, and I'm all prepared. I got all my medications. I'm ready to go. So I get there, the nurse brings me back, and they put me in a chair where the anesthesiologist, walks up to me, and he's like, look, because, let me rewind. The night before, the anesthesiologist had called me, and he had said, we had a conversation. He was checking on me, like, are you nervous? Do you have any questions that you want to ask me before your surgery tomorrow? I pretty much told him, I was like, yeah, so the nurse, I asked the nurse previously to explain to me what would my surgery day look like, and I made her give me more information when she told me that you would put the IV on me, and that you would give me fentanyl mixed with prune juice. And he started laughing. He was like, no, like, you know, I guess, like, it sounds very scary, and we're having, like, this huge, like, epidemic of, like, fentanyl overdoses, but in the right hands, and yada, yada, yada. Now we do A, B, and C. So he was really reassuring. He tried to reaffirm me that it was going to be safe with him as an expert using fentanyl, giving me fentanyl as part of my surgery. And, you know, he took his time to explain to me, reassured me, like, 6 times over, like, listen, like, in the hands of a professional. And, you know, eventually I was still a little nervous, but I agreed regardless, because I felt like I knew his background, I checked his license, and everything was fine. You know, this was my expert, I should trust my expert. And fast forwarding to my surgery day, I was sitting there, and he was like, listen, you know, I wouldn't pressure anybody to do anything that they didn't feel comfortable with. So because of that, I brought Dilaudid with me. I still have the fentanyl, but if you really don't want to use it, I can give you Dilaudid. And I think the reason why he was so, like, hesitant to give me the second medication to help me fall asleep, the Dilaudid, was maybe because it would take maybe more medications to make me wake up from anesthesia, or maybe it would stay in my system for longer. You know, while I think maybe the fentanyl would have been more fast acting, and he would have known how to counteract the fentanyl faster and easier. So that was my like, I was trying to think, like, common sense. But I was like, you know what, if you are going to give me options, like, I'll go ahead and take the Dilaudid. And he was like, he had the little Dilaudid bottle in his hand. He was like, okay, like, you got it, like. So, and the nurse was like, yeah, like, we're not gonna pressure you to do anything you don't feel comfortable with, like, it's fine. You want Dilaudid, we'll give you Dilaudid. So it was nice to have, like, that, you know, the nurse, like, reassure me that, like, we're gonna do what you feel comfortable with. And the anesthesiologist, you know, even though he didn't usually do this, he still gave me that option, and I just felt like that was so important and special to me. So I lay on the table, and I can already start to feel, like, the Dilaudid. It feels like when you're drinking, when you're drunk, and then you start to feel like the alcohol, like, kind of hit you all at once. You're like, oh yeah, like, and then I told him, I was like, oh, I can start to feel it. And they laid me down on the surgery table, and then I was telling them a story about me working out the night before, and by this time, the anesthesiologist, he was like, okay, like, I'm giving you the anesthesia now, like, in my IV. And then all of a sudden, I got, like, so giggly. I was, like, smiling and acting a little silly, just, like, laughing. And then and then it just, you know, clicked. I was like, okay, like, they're injecting me with medication. They're putting drugs in my system. I need to just relax, stop laughing, just... I was just, like, a little embarrassed, but I was just like, I breathed, I closed my eyes, and I fell asleep for what felt like about an hour. When I woke up, I felt no pain. I did not feel any, like, pain down here. As a matter of fact, I don't even remember feeling my nipples or my breasts. I didn't feel anything down here. I was just mostly feeling very sleepy. I remember, like, just being sleepy and just, like, waking up, but I was very quickly becoming more awake and more aware of my surroundings. I could see, like, my surgery team, everyone was there, and the surgery tech, she was like, oh, like, you're really gonna like it, like, once you're able to see it, like, you're really gonna like it. And I was like this, like, half asleep, like, eyes barely opening. I was like, oh my god, like, that makes me so happy. Like, if I could smile right now, I would, because I was so drugged. They had given me so many drugs that I couldn't even, like, make my lips smile. I was just pretty drugged is the only way that I can describe it. But I was like starting to come out of it more, and then my mom came into the room. They let her back in the room, and I remember trying to like smile at her, and like I gave her like these thumbs up, like like the weirdest like thumbs up, and like this smile to just, you know, reassure her that I was feeling fine. I had just come out of surgery. It was like me saying like, I'm okay, mom, you don't have to worry. So I was actually able to stand up on my own and transfer from chair to the wheelchair. And then when they wheeled me out to the car, I was actually able to like just like take a breath, like, and then I was able to stand up on my own and get onto my mom's SUV, which was great. So kudos to Dr. Bransford. He did a spectacular job in giving me anesthesia and giving me drugs to help me wake up again, because I was able to stand like almost right away, which to me shows that he is such a good doctor, and he's really like a master of his craft. So I appreciated that so much. You know, extra $1,000 on anesthesia was worth it, because let me tell you, he was worth it. And of course, my surgeon, Dr. Stevens, did a spectacular job. He did such a good job, because he was able to get these huge implants through my nipple, and he had set my expectations like really low. Like, he never once told me he could get over 600 milliliter implant into my breast. He never said he could do that, or that he would. But luckily for me, I woke up with a 615 milliliter implant on my smaller breast, and a 580 milliliter implant on my right breast that had more breast tissue. So I was just so impressed. Not a lot of pain. Everything felt like he did a really clean job, and he did end up going underneath my muscle, and that was before it was like a big like no for me. I did not want it underneath the muscle. I'm a super active girl. I told him I don't want an implant rubbing up against my rib cage. Like, that's a lot of friction, you know. And he was like, no, that's actually not correct. You know, we create like we create a pocket for it to sit, and like the muscle would mask like the circular shape of the implant, because you don't have a lot of breast tissue to kind of, you know, cover up like that roundness at the top. So because he took like all this time to explain to me why it would be better to do it underneath the muscle, when I was so like what's the word, I was just like in denial. Like, not denial, but I just did not want to do it that way, because I watched YouTube videos of girls that regretted doing it underneath the muscle, and one of them actually had to have the implant removed, like taken out, and because she had complications and whatnot. But my doctor sounded very smart. I work in a hospital in the ER, so I work around doctors, so I know. If I've been around doctors for like 4 years of my life, and like speaking to my surgeon, Dr. Stevens, I could tell like right away from my previous experience in the hospital, I could tell that, you know, the medical explanation he was giving me, he knew what he was talking about. So I decided to trust my doctor. I wanted to trust my expert, and I'm really glad I went, you know, that I did that, because he did a spectacular job. He inserted this huge implant. I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't really see it right now, but he put in this huge implant in through a very small incision around my nipple, and he sewed me back up, and he was just amazing. You know, he did a spectacular job. So my recovery, I would say 10 being like the worst, most painful recovery, 1 being the most excellent, painless recovery. I would rate it like a 4. My recovery, or maybe even like a 5, because I'm gonna get to my story, my ER story in just a minute. So yeah, recovery, I was pretty uncomfortable, which is what the nurse had warned me about. She was gonna be like, the first few days of your surgery, you're gonna be pretty uncomfortable. She looked me in the eyes and she was like, you're gonna be pretty uncomfortable. So, you know, she kind of gave me a heads up of what to expect after my surgery. They had prescribed me for my surgery. They gave me a nausea patch, which the nurse placed right before my surgery started, to help with like nausea after anesthesia. And then they gave me a muscle relaxer to help with muscle spasms, because I guess my chest muscles were not used to having anything underneath them, and I guess they can just kind of like move around a lot and tighten. So they gave me a muscle relaxer. It's called methocarbamol. So I was on that for like a while. And they gave me oxycodone, and then they gave me lorazepam to help me sleep, to just kind of like get me comfortable, get some sleep, get some rest, to help my body heal. There I am. When I got home, I went straight to bed. My mom was with me the whole time. She took really great care of me. You know, God bless her. She's an amazing woman, an amazing caretaker. And yeah, so I just slept pretty much the whole way through. I slept a lot, took my medication. They put me on antibiotics as well, because it was only like, what was it? It was only like 4 days of antibiotics, just to reduce the possibility of infection, because, you know, right after surgery, you don't want to get an infection. So they put me on antibiotics for that. And yeah. Oh, also, I bought Tylenol extra strength. So I was taking like 1,000 milligrams of Tylenol every 6 hours with my methocarbamol. Each pill was like 750 milligrams or mgs, and I was taking 2 of those. So I was on a lot of meds, trying to be as comfortable as I could. I definitely could not drive on that medication, you know, so I was just kind of like at home, chilling, taking it easy. I decided not to take my oxycodone. As a matter of fact, I was so vehemently against it that, because they had prescribed me like a lot of oxycodone. I had a big, huge bottle full of pills. It was like that big, full of oxy. And I just worked in the hospital for way too long, and just everything that I've seen with addiction, and addiction also previously having hit my family for prescription painkillers, you know, years past, and seeing the impact of that and suffering through my family members' addiction, just because of being through all that bullshit, like I was just like very much on the anti-oxycodone boat. I was like super anti. I had a really bad stigma against, and I still do, about oxycodone. So because of that, I looked at the bottle, and I didn't want to mess with that. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want any of my family members to, you know, accidentally or not accidentally get into that. So I made the decision to grab my bottle of oxy. I went upstairs very slowly, and I opened up the toilet, dumped all my oxy in the toilet, and flushed that shit down the toilet. That's what I did. And I was very, very glad I did that. I felt such relief and happiness to just get rid of that stuff. I felt like it was the devil leaving my home. And I know to a lot of people, they feel differently. They feel like I'm wrong, and maybe I shouldn't even be saying this, you know, out on social media or anywhere. But this is my opinion. This is the Goldi Luxe podcast. This is my opinion. This is what I feel. My experiences are different than yours. You have not been through what I've been through. You have not suffered what I have suffered through, felt pain through, and I never want to feel like that again. So I got rid of what I perceived to be the devil himself, drugs. So I was happy about that because I didn't have my oxy. I ended up going a more natural route. I stopped by the dispensary, and here in Washington, dispensaries are very legal. You only have to be 21 years old, no special license. You just show your driver's license and you can walk right in. So I went ahead and did that, and I walked up to the guy. I guess it was like a bud tender is what they call it. This is such a stupid title, but so I walked up to the guy and I was like telling him, hey, I'm gonna have a surgery, I'm gonna be in a lot of pain, they prescribed me oxy, I don't want to take oxy, so I need you to give me the strongest CBD pills you have. And they gave me options. They gave me like this little tincture, this little droplet. It was like the CBD was in oil form and you can take like little droplets, but I was like, oh, like I don't know, it was a lot of milligrams of CBD, so I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to measure this. And they also offered me the CBD in like the soda, the flavored soda, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna be able to measure this. I'm not gonna be able to know exactly how much CBD I'm taking. So hence why I ended up deciding to go for the CBD in pills. So it helped me sleep very peacefully, the CBD pills. I did not feel high. I just felt very like tired, and I was able to fall asleep super quickly. I did take lorazepam the second night because I was not allowed to take it on the first night because that would have been like too many medications that were downers after anesthesia, and I was already taking muscle relaxers, which made me already drowsy, and like they did not want me to add more downers to the mix. So I was not allowed to take lorazepam the very first night. So I think I took melatonin, or I don't remember, but I slept a lot. I was under a lot of drugs. But second night I did take lorazepam, and it helped me sleep. I fell asleep like that, and I think I only took like half of this tiny pill, and like I was out like a light. Let me tell you, I was sleep. So that was my recovery for the most part. But here we are gonna go into the scary part, and this is a scary part of the dark side of surgery. When you least expect it, things can go wrong. And on the 5th night of my post-surgery recovery, things did go wrong. So let me take a quick break, and I will be right back to give you my story. All right, so where do I even start? On the 5th day after my surgery, I was just, I went to bed like regular. I was trying to just get some rest, and I fell asleep, and I think it was a couple of hours that I was in bed. But then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, I wake up not feeling well at all whatsoever. I was not feeling good. I wake up all of a sudden, just like I was laying back, and then all of a sudden I get up, like I rip my band, the band that I'm supposed to wear across my chest, very high up on my chest to help guide my implants downwards. I rip that strap off. I like sit on the edge of my bed, and then I was just feeling like a little out of breath. I felt dizzy. Initially, at first, I felt dizzy. I tried to stand up, and then I turned the light on in my room, and I sat down. I was just trying to I was feeling dizzy again, and then I thought about going upstairs. I live in a townhome with my family, and it's 2 flights of stairs to get to the 3rd floor where my mom's room was. And so I'm not feeling well whatsoever. I'm like sitting at the edge of my bed. I try to stand up. That doesn't feel right. I feel dizzy. So I sat back down in my bed, and I ended up calling her, and she was asleep. She didn't pick up. So then I call my dad. He picks up, and I was like, Dad, like I need my mom to come downstairs right now. Like, I don't feel good at all. I don't know what's going on. So then my mom shows up and she's like, wow, like, what's going on? And then at that point, I was like having trouble breathing. I had shortness of breath. And I was just like, I don't feel good. Like I'm not feeling good. And I was just like trying to talk while like having like just shortness of breath. And then I was feeling dizzy, nauseous, and then I got nauseous. And then I felt like this really fast sweats come from like the back of my skull and my neck. It was just like sweat. I felt it come out really fast. And that's when I started to get worried. That's when it got really, really, really scary for me. I was like, what's going on? I have never felt this way before. I had shortness of breath. I was dizzy. I was nauseous. I was getting like cold sweats. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. And my mom didn't know what to do. She's not a medical expert. So they ended up bringing the a small blood pressure device that they have here at home. And they took my blood pressure. And my blood pressure was 105/53. 105/53. That bottom number, the diastolic number is what it's called. In the blood pressure, it's like 105/53. The bottom number was way too low for me. I have never ever in my life had such a low blood pressure number. And to me, I looked at it and I was just like shocked. Because if I saw that in a 29-year-old in the ER where I work, I would have freaked out and like went to get the doctor or something like that. And so there I am, like hyperventilating, just like, Mom, like I don't feel good. And she's like, well, what do you want me to do? She's like, you want me to call 911? And I felt so bad, just like trying to catch my breath and feeling like dizzy, and I was like sweating. All of these symptoms at the same time scared me. And quite frankly, I thought I was about to faint. I felt I was about to faint. And I was just like, my parents don't speak really good English. So I was like, before I can even pass out on my bed right now, I was like, yes, I'll call 911. So my mom freaks out that I'm going to call 911. So she gives the cell phone to my dad and she goes out to like sit on the staircase on her own to like catch a breather because she's scared. So my dad's there with my room in my room, and the operator goes, operator, what is your address? And I try to calmly catch my breath and give her my address. And then she was like, what's your emergency? And I was like, I don't feel good. Like I'm having really bad symptoms. I had surgery this many days ago and I don't feel good right now. And she's like, what are your symptoms? And that's when I was trying to like list all my symptoms, but I was out of breath. I was telling her, I was on the phone and I was like talking to her like shortness of breath, nausea, dizziness, I'm sweating. Like I was like catching my breath every single time that I tried to like explain to her what I was feeling. And she was like, stay right there, like, you know, the medics are on the way right now. And like they sent medics to come, you know, check on me. And that's a really big deal when they send medics, because medics have like they have all the tools. They're more advanced like medical people that have like specific training and license to help to be able to like give medications if they have to give you medications, and that takes a certain type of training and license and certificate. And so when they send medics, that's a really big deal, because had they brought just like the ambulance people, all they could have done for me was like take my vitals and then take me straight to the hospital, to the ER. Like ambulance people, we call them AMR here in Washington. AMR would not have been able to medicate me or like revive me, or maybe they would have been able to revive me, but they would not have been able to give me medication. But they sent the medics to come check on me, and they arrived, and it was about 6 minutes after the phone call with the 911 operator, and they finally arrived. And mind you, by that time I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and I had caught my breath, and I was feeling a little bit better. And it just felt so strange to have this like 4 very tall men like in my room, in my space, and they were like all dressed in like uniforms, and they have like tough shoes, and I don't know, just it felt odd. But luckily I was feeling a little bit better. They took my blood pressure again, and in the span of the 6 minutes that they took to get to me, my blood pressure had improved. It was like 105 over 70 or something. It had improved a lot. And they were like, okay, well, based on your vitals and like what you're telling me, because I told them like, hey, I had a breast augmentation surgery a couple days ago, and I felt like I was gonna faint. And I'm only 29 years old, like I have never felt like that in my life. But basically they told me, it was funny because one of the guys, he was like on the door, on my doorway, like with the little like bag, like he was like ready to do like CPR and like revive somebody, and like he looked like he was ready, for the action. And I was just sitting there. I was able to talk, and so yeah, the main guy that was like assessing me, he's like, listen, based on your vitals and what you're telling me, I don't think we need to take you to the hospital right now. Just get some rest. If this happens again, make sure you call. So anyways, they end up leaving, and that was just such a big scare. My parents were petrified. My dad was like shaking. Mom was like just so like scared, yeah, so I made sure to call my doctor's office right away, Dr. Stevens, the doctor that did the surgery on me, because I would have been able to page Dr. Stevens directly if I needed to, because if you call the office phone number, the message like lets you press like 1 or 0, which therefore would page the doctor directly. So I would have been able to talk directly to my surgeon that night, like in the middle of the night, if I really had needed to. But because my symptoms improved, I had the medics check on me already. They cleared me. They didn't feel like I needed to go to the ER. Because of that, I decided to just leave the office a message, and I was still like pretty shaky. I was like, yeah, hi. So I just called 911, and the medics came in to check on me, and they told me I was fine, but I had this, and this symptom, and I was still like I felt like my voice was like shaking, and I was trying to stay calm. So I left them that message. I decided I did not need to talk directly to the surgeon and wake him up, because I felt better, and I had already had medical staff come and assess me, and they had cleared me. So the next morning, the nurse calls me, and she's like, oh my god, like we got your message, like how are you feeling, what happened? And like at first she said, I heard you had an hospital visit, and I was like, no, I had called 911, and the medics came and assessed me, and like this happened. And she was like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna report all of this to Dr. Stevens, to the doctor. Anyways, a couple hours later, on that same afternoon, Dr. Stevens calls me, and I explained to him what happened, and he pretty much told me, he was like, listen, at this point, I feel like I need you to go to the ER today. Don't go to urgent care. Go to an actual ER, because an emergency room, they have all of the technology and all of the tools to assist you, whereas urgent care does not. So he specifically told me go to an ER. And the reason for that was because he explained to me, he was like, well, I just want to make sure that we, like the way this sounds to me is that it could be a possible pulmonary embolism. And when I heard that, I almost freaked out. I was so freaked out. I was like speechless. Like I didn't say one word. So he was like, yeah, Cinthia, like, when we're creating the pocket, like we can there's a possibility that we like that there could be like a puncture through your lung, and that you could be bleeding. There could be bleeding going on inside of your lung. And he was like, Cinthia, you could die from that. And when he said that, I was like so shocked. I was like, I had no words. I was just like in shock when he said that. He was like, Cinthia, like, you can die from that. And the fact that I could possibly like die or have this awful like medical complication just because of vanity, it was just so baffling to me. It was really something I didn't expect at all. So I had to like sit down, and then I started getting like that nauseous, dizzy feeling again. Like I needed to catch my breath, like, because right when he told me that, I was like, okay. And I was trying to like focus on my breathing, and I was like, oh my god, not again, because I was feeling like the same way that I felt the night before when I woke up, and I was trying to like catch my breath. Not as much shortness of breath, but I was still like getting dizzy. I even like opened the front door because I felt like I was going to faint. I didn't tell him that. I was like, okay, like I'll go to the ER. I called my parents immediately, and I told them everything that was happening. I was like, I need you to take me to the ER. So both of my parents, I told them, and they rushed back to the house. And but we were like constantly on the phone. Like my mom was calling me, she would hang up, and then my dad would call me, and they were both like, I'm on my way right now, because I was like, I need somebody to take me to the ER. I really did not want to call 911 again. I didn't want to call an ambulance, and I did not want to go to my hospital because I don't even have insurance with my hospital because I'm a per diem staff member. What that means is that I dropped my part-time, my full-time hours, and I pretty much work a minimum of 24 hours per month in the hospital, and that's my minimum. And I can just kind of like pick up hours here and there. So I'm a per diem staff member at my hospital. Therefore, I don't get medical insurance anymore. So there I am worrying about medical bills while I'm like just like sitting down like crisscross applesauce at the doorway with the door a little bit like halfway cranked open. And the way that I was like, and I was on the phone with my mom the whole time. And the way I was thinking of it was like, well, you know, if I pass out right now, if I faint, at least like I'll faint and the door will be open, and one of my neighbors will maybe come by and rush to my rescue and like take me to the ER, you know? So I was like, if I pass out, I'm gonna leave this door open so somebody knows like something happened. But I already knew like my parents were on the way. But I just felt like just dizzy, like I was going to faint, and I was getting like, I don't know if it was anxiety because of what the doctor told me, like that I could possibly die from this complication, pulmonary embolism. But I was freaking out. No, I was not freaking out. I was actually trying to stay calm. I was trying to breathe. I was focusing on my breathing, and then I was trying to like stay on my phone, like stay like focused, like to keep myself awake. I'm like, oh, like what urgent care emergency department do I want my parents to take me to? And I decided to go to one in University of Washington emergency room that was close by to our home. And I texted my parents. I was like, hey, I sent them an address, and mom's like, you sent me an address? Like, why'd you send me an address? And it was over the phone. And I told her, I was like, oh, that's the address of where I want you to take me to, the emergency room I want you to take me to, because I did not want her to take me to my emergency room where I had all my coworkers. I didn't want them to know my business. Nobody had any idea that I had a breast augmentation surgery done, and I didn't really want them to know. I didn't want them to like open me up and like put all the stickers on me like I know we do in our emergency department. I just didn't want to be so exposed in front of my coworkers, in front of people that I work with. I wanted to keep my privacy. So I was like, do not take me there. Take me to this ER instead. So they very graciously took me to the one that I wanted, and I got really good care there. They immediately like brought me back right away because, mind you, there was about like 10 15 people in the waiting room waiting before me. I like filled my paper. I told him, hey, like it's a post-surgery complication. I called 911 the night before. My surgeon specifically told me to come to an ER, not urgent care, ER. So that's why I'm here. And within the span of like 6 minutes, my mom went to park the car and she came back. They immediately like brought me back to triage, and I explained to them everything. And I was like, yeah, so my surgeon called me this morning and told me that it could be a possible pulmonary embolism, and he recommended a CT scan and this other test. And they were like, oh yeah, we know what that is. So based off of like everything I told them, the medical staff in this ER like immediately brought me back. They gave me a room, which to me like only showed the gravity of the situation, because in our ER, we give the people that are most in danger of like a possible medical emergency, we give those people, the sickest people, or the ones that are most in danger, again, we give them a room first over people who have like, oh, maybe just a stomach pain, or you know what I mean? So I was glad they were able to get me in fast, but I was still worried. They hooked me up to the monitor and my vitals were like off the wall. Like my blood pressure was like 134/93. It was, and the MAP was like 105. MAP is like the average blood pressure in your blood. So everything was high. Those numbers were high for me. I think my pulse was like 74 beats per minute. And yeah, like 134/93, like that number is high with the MAP of 105. Like blood pressure's going through the roof. I'm like freaking out, scared, but trying not to show it, just trying to be very polite, very nice. And so they got me in, they got my vitals. The EKG lady came in, she took my EKG. And what else? Oh, the nurses finally come in, and it was like a smaller, more petite, younger looking nurse. And it was like a young man. He was the nurse, but I could tell he was the more experienced, because he was more confident. And he was like, oh yeah, this is my student, blah blah blah. I think they were either training her or she was like a student, but I think she might have been a student still, because like she tried to start my IV and she tried it on my left forearm, and when she inserted it, I was like, ow, like it hurt so much. I don't even think she looked for a vein, because like it hurt so bad. I felt like she just inserted that needle straight into my muscle, didn't even look for a vein. She just went up, and it was just terrible. I immediately started bruising. I looked down at my arm and it was like red. It was terrible. And that bruise only grew bigger over time. And that bruise was there for like almost 2 weeks, like 14 days, maybe even more. It was the worst IV ever. So anyways, the main nurse, the guy, he looked over and he was like, no, okay. He was just like, pass me the stuff. I'm going to try her other arm. So he finally gets it on my right arm. Like he gets it like up here, close to the muscle, the bicep. So I'm ready to go. Finally, the resident doctor comes in, and I pretty much explained to him everything, including like the shortness of breath that I had when I was trying to give the symptoms to the 911 operator. I was like telling him, I was like I thought I was gonna faint. Like I'm not to exaggerate, like I'm not dramatic. I thought I was gonna faint. And I told him like I had ripped my strap off, and then I was trying to like just catch my breath. I was dizzy. So but now that I think about it, I thought about this before, but I was almost going to forget to say it now, that I had missed my 3 a.m. muscle relaxer dose. So I was due to get my nightly dose of muscle relaxer at 3 a.m. And on day 5, my muscles were still like, my chest muscles would start to tighten, and I could feel them tightening because it would felt like somebody was like making a fist like this. Like that's how they would tighten, like a fist, and I could start to like feel like the tension. So I missed my muscle relaxer dose at 3 in the morning, and I had the strap on me, and I think it was just all that tension that was on my chest that pretty much had prevented me from breathing. Like, I think I might have been like hypoxic for a minute there. Like maybe I was not getting like enough oxygen into my lungs or like something, because there was so much tension like on my chest during that time. At least that's my theory. So the resident doctor comes in, listens to my story and everything. He's like writing notes, and they say like, oh, I'm there for acute shortness of breath, and also for what was it, like post-op whatever, like surgery complication. Which, mind you, in the ER, my ER where I work at, like we have tons of like post-surgery complications. Like all the time people come in with complications, so it's not rare for me to see that, but it was just scary. So they ended up, they did blood work, they took a lot of blood from me, and then they came down, picked me up, and wheeled me over to the CT scanner room. So they laid me down, and I have never in my life had a CT scan. Thank God I've never had to have a CT scan before this scare. And they kind of explained to me, they're like, we're gonna put like IV fluid, there's a word for that, contrast. They're gonna put IV contrast in my IV, and you're gonna feel a little like warmth, and then we're gonna take the scan. So I just, try to relax, and they got me like comfortable, in a comfortable position, and they like scan me. So I start to like go into the scanner. No wait, they put the IV contrast in me first, and then I felt this like warm rush. I don't know how to describe it. It's like the warmth started from like pretty much the top of my body, and it went like all the way down to like the tips of my toes, and it just felt like so weird because it was like this warmness, and it was just like, and it covered like the whole entire span of my body all the way to my toes. And then I was trying to follow like the little directions, the graphic at the top that said breathe and then release your breath, and then I missed that window, so I was not breathing right. I guess I wasn't like staying still enough for the CT scan. So then the CT scan tech, he comes up, he's like, oh, like I think something happened to your scan. And I was like, oh yeah, like I definitely messed up on my breathing. He was like, oh, okay, no, we'll try it again. And then they had to put another round of IV contrast, which, and I was like, oh, I don't really want more IV contrast, because it felt awkward, weird, like the first round. And again, I feel like this really hot wave sensation go like down my body, and it was just like, ooh, it felt so weird. So then I finally followed the breathing directions on the CT, and they're like, okay, we got it. And then they wheel me back down. I waited about 3 hours, and then finally the doctor comes back in, he explains, okay, we ruled out pulmonary embolism. You're not bleeding in your lungs. The CT was negative. And yeah, they were like, if this persists, come visit us again. They gave me discharge papers. All good. So I finally go home after a long day in the ER, and my mom was at my bedside the whole time, and like I just felt like so supported by her and my family, and I just felt very grateful for how much like my family and my parents care about me, and you know how they take such good care of me as well. Even in like my full on adulthood, they still like, I guess I'm still their little girl, I guess, you know, they kind of see me that way. So yeah, that kind of wraps up my scary story in the ER, and I hope to never, ever, 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 ever be back there again. Oh my god, so I just noticed that I had ripped off my eyelashes and I forgot about it, and now I'm missing eyeliner, so I'm looking a little crazy right now. Please don't judge me. It's my first episode. I promise I'll do better next time and not scare you with my unfinished makeup. Alright, so the last segment of my very first podcast is going to be about the Lovers and Friends Festival. Yes, we're going to be talking about Lovers and Friends Fest 2024 disaster. And to start it off, I will say that I arrived a day earlier than the festival was going to be. So I believe the festival was May 3rd, and I think I got to Vegas around May 2nd. I had an excellent, immaculate, spotless plan to stay at the Sahara, which is right across the street from the festival ground. So it was going to be perfect. It was going to be convenient, and that hotel room was expensive, I'll tell you that much, because they knew, you know, they had the date, they knew it was going to be a huge festival. So the hotel was like, I think it was like $300 a night, if not more. I think the Saturday was like close to like $400. It was expensive to stay at the Sahara, and mind you, I booked it like way ahead of time, like months and months and months ahead of time. Sahara, I had my plan. It was gonna be walking distance, and I had a plan, you know? And things did not happen as expected. As many of you know, if you follow hip-hop culture or pop culture, whatever, you know, Lovers and Friends Festival was unexpectedly canceled with no previous warning or any sign that might have led anybody to believe it was going to be canceled the night before. I still get sad about it, thinking about it now. It would have been a ball. That lineup was fire. It was fire. But anyways, okay, so I get here May 2nd, and I'm the first to arrive out of my family because I decided to invite and heavily persuade my parents to drop everything they were doing, their jobs and everything, and like come and hang out with me in Vegas. I already got this room for me and my brother. Like, just come on out and enjoy the fun. They have never experienced Vegas before, like the way Vegas should be experienced, like walking and sightseeing and all that good stuff. So anyways, I finally convinced my parents to come along with us, and because it was so last minute, and they hadn't had time to book their flights in advance, they ended up driving with my brother because he also didn't book his flight with advance, and flights were just so expensive. But I'm a woman with a plan, always and forever, so I definitely got a good deal on my flight. I got there on Friday, and the rest of my family decided to drive to Vegas. So there I was, you know, I arrived early. I arrived around like 9 in the morning, and I decided to just kind of like walk around, you know. They had my heavy luggage because I had my breast augmentation just 7 days before, and I'm fresh out of like ER visits, and I was taking it easy. There was no way I was going to be, carrying around the huge luggages. So I made sure that they took my luggage from Seattle, and I just had like this like little duffel bag that I was carrying along with me. So because of that, I was just very comfortably able to get dropped off at Planet Hollywood was where I got dropped off, because it was like very center strip. And I, kind of like walked around Planet Hollywood. I was just trying to kill some time before my family arrived, and I got some really delicious Mexican breakfast and a really good mimosa at this like La Cantina in Planet Hollywood. It's like a very well-known like little joint. They're known for like, like a cheap $5 breakfast, and it was delicious. It was so worth it. I definitely made sure to tip my bartender. Always gotta, tip our service workers. And I was just killing time. I still had some time after, walking around Planet Hollywood. It was like, it was okay. It's a solid resort for sure. And I decided to cross the street. I kind of like peeked over at the Bellagio fountains. I was like, oh, like the water's so pretty. And then across the street again to go into the Cosmopolitan, which by the way is my absolute favorite resort out of all of them. I think the Cosmopolitan is like so my vibe. There's like, it glitters, it shines, it's young, it's like chic, it's trendy, it's seductive in some ways, and I feel like I can like relate to that. That's like my vibe. So it was very welcoming to me, and I sat down under the chandelier bar, and then a bartender comes up to me. She's like, oh my god, like, how are you doing? Can I get you something? And I was like, oh, okay, well, I thought I was going to be able to just sit under the chandelier bar and like enjoy my view and like people watch, but I was like, oh, okay, like, I'll get a mimosa. She's like, oh, no worry, like, I got you. And then she brings me over a mimosa. I drink my mimosa, and then she brings me over my bill, and it was like a $30 mimosa. And I'm talking like not bottomless, no refill. I'm talking like one single mimosa, $30. It was quite large. I would say, I don't know. It was okay, I got the feel from it. But it was still $30 mimosa, and then you had to tip her. I was like, well, I was not expecting that, but here's my card. I gave her my credit card, and I just, after a while, I just got up and kept it moving. I kept walking around, and I decided I have never really gotten to fully explore the Cosmopolitan. Right now I have a lot of time to kill, so I went ahead and walked through the casino, and it was just really pretty. It was very, very packed. It was like a packed day. It was kind of like crowded. You had to like dodge people to like walk around, and I walked up to the second floor, and I got to the food court, and then I was like, oh, you can see the chandelier bar from the food court up here, and I was just walking around. But then I felt like a little like winded after like walking upstairs at the Cosmopolitan. Like, I felt like my heart was beating really fast, and I was like, oh, that's not good. Well, I just came out of like an ER visit. Like, I need to like monitor my vitals. So I was like, okay, let me sit down. So I finally find a chair to sit down on. Mind you, I'm still in the second floor, and I check my Whoop. It's my Whoop band. Some people have Apple Watch. I have my Whoop. It's like a little band that has a chip reader inside that reads your vitals, like your pulse and temperature, just like an Apple Watch would. So I checked my app, and I look at my heart rate. 140 beats per minute. 140 beats per minute, and I go, whoa. Like, I look at that number and I'm shocked. I was like, what the heck? I was not expecting that. So then I decided to take a few breaths. I sit down for about 10 minutes, hoping and just waiting for my heart rate to go down, because the way I was walking in Planet Hollywood, it was slow, steady. I was taking my time. I took the escalator up to the second floor at the Cosmopolitan, so I was like taking it easy. I was like walking slow, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I have 140 beats per minute heart rate. I was like, no. So I just sat down, decided to take it easy, and I don't know if it was a combination of the heat that was getting to me, the Las Vegas heat. My body was still trying to adjust to that. And because I was walking slow. Maybe I walked too much. I don't know. But I needed to take it easy. And at that point, my mom texts me. No, she calls me and she was like, hey, like, we're 15 minutes away. We can come pick you up to take you to, so that we can go check into our hotel, the Sahara. So I slowly make my way back to Planet Hollywood, and I couldn't find them. They were in a different garage at the Planet Hollywood. Anyways, my parents end up finding me, and we're finally reunited as a family. And we make our way to Sahara. We're able to check in early, which was so great. We got to beat the crowds, the 4 p.m. check-in crowd. And I think they only charged us like $25 to check in early, which was great. We really needed that to freshen up. So we got up to our room. The lady was so nice. I was telling her, hey, it was only going to be a 2-person stay, but now it moved up to 4 people because I brought my family. I brought my parents. And she was like, no way. And I was like, yes. And she was just so friendly. She's like, are you going to the festival, Lovers in France? And I was like, yeah. Oh my God, I wanted to go so bad. But the tickets sold out so fast. And I was like, I know they sold so fast. Like, these tickets sold out in like 3 hours. 3 hours and they were gone. GA plus, VIP, all the tickets were sold out. Okay, I had to be like on the website, kind of like just like waiting for the time, and then I snagged up me and my brother's tickets, and but yeah, he paid for those tickets, but I was just like on the website ready to put my credit card down, and he just paid me back later. But yeah, so we finally checked into Sahara. Because I'm such an itinerary person, there I go with my pronunciation. I had something planned for us right away. So I had planned for us to go to Tahoe Beach Club day party. De Oro, the EDM Mexican DJ, was going to be playing at Tahoe. And I was like, perfect. This is the perfect way to start off our Cinco de Mayo weekend. Super exciting. And so we shower, get ready, go down to De Oro, and we had a blast. We got there like, I would say halfway through De Oro set, but it was still really fun. My brother had never been to Tahoe Beach Club before, but I have. Last year that I went to Lovers and Friends, I also went to Tahoe. I kind of did the same thing. But it was so much fun. We didn't drink because both me and my brother were so sober. We had just been in Vegas for like 2 hours max, so we hadn't even started drinking yet. But we got to see De Oro, which is what we wanted. And because I told him, I was like, listen, if you get a drink in this day club, they're gonna charge you $70 for one of those like slushy drinks, because unfortunately, I got scammed last year. I got to the bar, I asked for the drink, and the bartender goes, $70! And I go, what? I was like, I joked. I was like, well, you might as well take my kidney. And he was like, what? And I was like, oh, I'm kidding. It's just a joke. Like, here you go. Here's my credit card. But yeah, like, those drinks were so expensive. $70. So fast forward a year later, I told my brother, like, listen, like, don't even try and get a drink in this place, because they'll overcharge you like crazy, and then you have to give a tip on top of that. So we ended up not drinking at Tahoe, and I think we ended up kind of walking around a little bit, the Venetian, and then eventually we met up with our parents again, and it was so funny. It sounded like our parents were like a little bit lost in Vegas. They didn't really know what to do, and they told us, they're like, oh, like, we found like this random taco spot to like eat at, and we walked a little bit around Circus, and I was like, circus, like, what? I was like so offended, not because I'm bougie or whatever, but simply because out of everything you can sightsee in Vegas, you decide to walk across the street to Circus. Like, get out of here, I have never been there, but I've watched the blogs, the Las Vegas blogs. I follow the bloggers, and I've heard really negative reviews about Circus Circus. Just like, ugh. But my mom and my dad were like, oh no, like there was a lot to look at, and like it wasn't really that bad. It was like, okay. So it was like to each their own, you know, whatever. So that night I also had an activity for us. We went to see Tiesto at Omnia, which is in Caesar's Palace. So that was also my brother's first time being at Caesar's. And it was a ball, it was a blast, it was a really good, like, when we got to Caesar's, like, people were already, like, dancing on this, like, bar that had no seating. It was just, like, a dance floor, and they had, like, a DJ with, like, they were blasting music at that bar. Like, the DJ was, like, doom, 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 like, playing, like, reggaeton music, and people were, like, dancing up, and everybody was dancing in that bar. So, it was pretty much all around like party vibes. Caesar's Palace was giving party vibes, and that bar was right in front of the Omnia entrance, so we got in pretty quickly. We got lost inside of Omnia because there's a club inside of a club. So you have Omnia, but then they have the hip hop part of Omnia, which I knew nothing about, and it was called Heart. And we took like a left turn up the staircase, and that staircase led up to this like terrace rooftop bar, which was separate. It was not Omnia. So we went back downstairs. And then finally I found an employee, and I was like, we're looking for Omnia. And he like directed us. He was very nice, walked us all the way down. So we had to go walk through Heart, the hip hop club, to get into Omnia. And finally we arrived, and it was already like super crowded. Like you can barely walk. People were like packed like sardines in there. And I have to say, Omnia club looked way smaller than it looked in the pictures. In the pictures it looks large and grand, but like we got in there and this room was just small. It was like a small ballroom in my eyes. It was like two levels. I think there were VIP tables on the second level as well. They had balconies. But man, Omnia was like way smaller than I thought it was gonna be. Don't get me wrong, it was grand. Like they had like lights going all the way down, and they had like that super fancy chandelier that like moves up and down and just like really crazy stuff. And it was beautiful, it was grand, but it was just so crowded. People were so drunk, and it was all around kind of like bad vibes. I felt like people in that place were like just giving bad vibes, like angry drunk, you know what I mean? And but we got to see Tiesto. We got some fun out of it, and eventually we ended up leaving. My feet were almost bleeding. My feet were hurting. So I had to walk from Omnia to like the rideshare area of Caesar's, and by that time my feet, walking on the cobblestone of Caesar's, I was suffering. And I had my brother that I could like put my hand on. I could support my weight on his arm, and I was still like, oh, like my feet are like bleeding. They were not bleeding. They were just in so much pain. They were so swollen. Mind you, I wore my comfortable heels, but still. So we sit down at the Caesar's Palace fountain, and we order an Uber. It takes like 10 minutes for us to get like the first Uber. They arrive, I see the white van, and then he leaves. He like drives off, and I tried calling, and I was like, oh my god, like we just saw you, like you left. And he was like, there was nobody there, so I just decided to walk out, to drive away. And it turns out Uber and Lyft drivers in Vegas don't like to wait for their riders. He didn't see anybody right away. He decided to drive off. So hard lesson learned right there. So we had to wait like another like 15 minutes for the next guy. And he called me. He was like, oh, like, I don't really know where your location is. And I was like, oh, we're like Caesar Palace Forum Shop pickup. But I think he was just like testing me or testing us to see if how drunk we were. Because at this time, there's a lot of drunk people and Uber drivers have to like deal with a lot of like people's BS, being drunk and rowdy. So I think he was trying to test to see like if I was drunk, and had I been drunk, like how drunk was I? Because I didn't drink in Caesars, in Omnia. I didn't drink. I was just like vibing. I had drank a little bit in our hotel at Sahara. But anyways, I was not on the level my brother was at. He drank more than me because I took a lot of time getting ready. So finally we get picked up, and I tell my Uber driver, I was like, oh my god, like, thank you so much for picking us up. Like, our other Uber driver drove off because he didn't see us because we were sitting in the fountain. And yeah, that was our first day in Vegas. And wait, no, it was this Uber driver, the one that did pick us up from Caesar's Palace. We were conversating with him, and he's the one that broke the news to me that the festival had been canceled. And I was like, no, you're lying. I was like, there's no way. There's no way. And he was like, no, yeah, like, I just heard it from somebody else. And I was like, no, this is not happening. So I like go scrolling through my Instagram, and I finally see it. I see the message. It said, dear friends, blah, 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 Lovers and Friends Festival has been canceled because of the wind warning, high wind warning, 60 miles an hour wind. And I was like, no! You have no idea how heartbroken I was. I was so heartbroken. I wanted to see this festival so bad. So bad. There was nothing I wanted more that weekend than to see Sierra standing up on that stage doing the 1-2 step. There's nothing more I wanted. I also wanted to see Lil Wayne performing the Carter 3. I'm like, I don't know if you can see it. I'm recording this podcast, and it's like, I'm a little teary-eyed because I was so disappointed. I swear to you, if they don't have the exact same lineup next year, it's over. It's over. Over. Okay? I will never show up to Lovers and Friends Fest if they don't have the exact same lineup that they had this year, next year. Bet. Okay? And I'm going to double down on that. I was so upset when this Uber driver told me this festival had been canceled, and just me in my downward spiral. I finally confirmed for myself through social media, through their Instagram, this had been true. And the Instagram comments were not nice. Okay? Those Instagram comments, those people were not nice. Those comments were mean. People were saying like, oh, like, we're still, we should still show up, you know, the next day. Like, I bought this ticket, I'm going to show up to the festival grounds, and like, at dawn we ride, guys. Like, you know, like saying stuff like that. And like, you saying like, this was my birthday weekend, like, you guys ruined everything. Like, people were so upset. And the worst comments in my mind, and from my perspective, were like, the people were like, we flew from Australia to come here. And like, I saw two Australians comment like, we flew all the way from Australia to Las Vegas for this festival. And there was even one person, there was one New Zealander. They're like, we came out all the way down from New Zealand, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, that's like a 10 plus hour airplane ride and Ubers and Lyfts, and you have to book your hotel. And people were so mad. So mad. Like, I just kept scrolling and people were just like pissed on the comment section, and there was no reply. Lovers and Friends Fest was not replying to any of the comments, and anyways, so I was very disappointed. I just went to bed after that. Didn't want to cry. And so the next morning, we decided to go to Fat Tuesdays to get one of those yardstick long drinks and whatever. And like, maybe it was all for the better because we got to spend time with our family. We got to walk around Las Vegas with our parents. We walked through the Venetian, had a blast, had a ball. Then we walked through the Caesar's Palace foreign shops, which was my dad's favorite. He loved the Caesar's Palace shopping center, and they got to see all the fountains in the Caesar's Palace Mall. So we got to see and explore a lot. But before we did that, we had gone to Wet Republic. Wait, I'm like losing track of the days. We went to see Steve Aoki at Wet Republic, but I don't know if it was this day or if it was the next day. No, I think that was Sunday. So I'm going to backtrack. So we were walking around. We got to explore a lot. My brother got really drunk on his yardstick. He was drinking that thing. He was working on it. I was drinking mine like slow, and then I would drink like my little liquid death, my water. Anyways, by the time we got out of the Venetian, my brother was turned. He was like turned. He was happy turned. He was like dancing and singing. He was like dancing. He was doing like his cowboy cheer, and he was like screaming like ooh ooh ooh, and like nobody even turned around to look at us because it was like Vegas, you know, people get rowdy there all the time. People didn't even turn around to look at him. And there was this guy with the Bluetooth speaker like blasting like Mexican music, and he was just like dancing, and they were like hyping him up like hey 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 hey. It was a really good time, and I have to say I really enjoyed spending time with my family, and it really made the trip. It made it memorable. I will always remember it for the rest of my life, like our first Vegas trip together, and it was just something to remember for sure. So we got picked up from Caesar's Palace rideshare area, made it back to the hotel so that I could get ready, shower, and we got ready for Encore Beach Club night. So it was like a club at the Encore Beach Club. During the night, it was still formal wear. You cannot wear bathing suits, but it was like in that venue. And we were there to see Afrojack. And these were the expensive tickets, I'm not gonna lie. So I got these tickets because in my mind, we would have left the Lovers and Friends Festival. So Encore Beach Club to see Afrojack was going to be our after party once Lovers and Friends Fest was over. So the plan was to see Nas as the last performer. He would probably end around like midnight, and we would like rush and cross the street to our hotel Sahara, and then rush to get ready, maybe grab a snack or take a shot or something, and then head down to Encore Beach Club, which is not far away at all from Sahara because it's both North Vegas. And I got like fast pass tickets to get in like faster because I knew I was like, oh, there might be a line, you know, at this time. So I kind of thought ahead. There was nobody. During the night, it was like pretty windy. It was windy for sure. The morning, it was not windy. It was not. But at night it was. And so there was less people than I would have anticipated for an Afrojack set. And but luckily we got to see Afrojack, and he was right there, and he was like, you know, just hyping up the crowd, and it was exciting. The music was so good. We danced, and my brother was very nice, and he stayed almost the entire set because I wanted to see Afrojack. That's one of my favorite EDM DJs, but he's more of a reggaeton guy. Anyways, it was fun. We had a blast. I got some good videos, and we ended up going back to the hotel where our parents were sleeping, and we woke up the next day because the next day we had Steve Aoki. So I feel like I'm getting the timeline right this time. So we saw Steve Aoki at Wet Republic, and it was freaking awesome. Steve Aoki always puts on like an amazing show. He knows what like this type of crowd wants. He knows they want to get rowdy. He did not throw cakes into the crowd because, you know, I think Wet Republic wants to keep the space clean, you know, and plus he plays a lot of shows in that venue. But he did throw a lot of shirts. He played a lot of bangers. He played I'm on the pursuit of happiness, dun 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 dun, and oh my god, that got the crowd going. And me and my brother, we were pretty drunk because we had stopped to refill our Fat Tuesday yardsticks, and we were lit. But it was like a good lit. It was like a happy lit. Like the alcohol didn't hit me all at once. It was like a smooth fun, like I'm feeling good, like I want to dance type of like fun. And dance we did. We definitely danced and had a blast. It was just so much fun. It was great. So after Steve Aoki, I don't know if before or after Steve Aoki, but we ended up checking out of Sahara. I think I only got a few days there, and I wanted to extend the trip. So we stayed there Sunday we ended up staying as well. So I had extended the trip, and so the whole family, we checked out of Sahara and then checked in to Paris hotel. So my mom was just so like enamored with this resort. Like this was her vibe. She's really into like interior designing, like furniture and like rugs. She's like all about that, and she was just really like baffled, especially by the lobby chandeliers, like Paris palace theme. Like she was just like, her eyes were like wide open. She loved it, and so did my dad. Even though Paris is like a smaller resort, like during the time that my brother and me were in Wet Republic watching Steve Aoki, I guess they were like walking around Paris resort. They got to walk through the pool and kind of like check everything out. So they were really enjoying their Las Vegas stay as well. And my parents also got the yardstick drink, so like they were enjoying themselves, you know. I think my mom and my dad were sharing a yardstick because my mom does not drink a lot, but we all had a blast. But anyways, you know, talking to all these Lyft drivers, they gave me some information. They were like, I ended up coming to the conclusion that I felt like Lovers and Friends Fest had become a scam. It was a scandalous scam because the way that I saw it, they were trying to pretty much do insurance fraud, was my speculation. I was like, listen, they waited to the very last minute to cancel the show. They canceled it the night before at 10 p.m. They had given nobody any heads up that this was gonna happen. No warnings, like, hey, festival might be canceled tomorrow. For those of you that might fly in last minute, they even had the audacity to what is the word, to make an announcement to come to the pop-up merch shop and come shop Lovers and Friends Fest merch at our pop-up shop in the festival grounds. So they put that on their Instagram, and they advertised it. But by that point, they pretty much knew. I'm sure they knew that the festival was going to be canceled. But they couldn't cancel it until the very last minute because they had to wait until like the federal government, like the official weather forecast, put in like a high wind warning, that they were finally able to cancel the show. Because if the federal government hadn't put like a high wind warning, like 60-mile plus winds, dangerous, blah blah blah, if they hadn't gotten that warning, they would not have been able to claim insurance money for inclement weather, which is something that insurance would cover Lovers and Friends Fest for. Would be a reason to cancel the show would be inclement weather. And in this case, they had to wait for the high wind warning to officially be released by the government. So it all kind of like made sense. I connected the dots, and I was talking to some Uber drivers, and they're like, you know what, like that makes sense. And then I also told a couple that I talked to at CBS, and I was like, yeah, because they were also there for the Lovers and Friends Fest, and I was like, yeah, so like I was talking to like Uber drivers, me and my brother, and we're suspecting insurance fraud. And they looked at me and they're like, well, great. They were like pretty upset to hear that, but I still feel like I'm right on the dot. I feel like it's giving scam, it's giving insurance fraud. And another reason why I feel like another factor I think kind of backs up my theory is that the very first few years that Lovers and Friends was on, it was run by Usher. But this year, it was not run by Usher. It was run by the two guys that run Coachella. So, they took over like running the festival, and they had previous experience with running this huge mammoth festival that's Coachella. So like those guys knew what they were doing. And it's giving insurance fraud. And I don't think the artists were in on the scam, because I heard Usher rehearsing the night before. We were at Sahara, okay? And I was getting ready, I was doing my makeup, and I heard freaking Usher on the mic, on the speaker, on the main stage of Lovers and Friends, rehearsing for his show the next day, because he was going to be, one of the headliners at Lovers and Friends. And Usher would not have hopped on the stage, perform, rehearse all of his, go through all of his list of songs that he was going to perform. He would not have done that if he knew what these two guys had in store for the festival. Had Usher known that they were going to cancel the festival last minute and just not give any warnings, and just, he would not have gone on that stage and gone out of his way to practice and rehearse for his show the next day. So, there's a lot to think about there, and I very firmly stand on that. I think I'm right. I think I'm right on the dot, and I really hope that next year this doesn't happen again. Hopefully, maybe Usher takes back the control of Lovers and Friends Fest, that these guys definitely don't run the festival next year, because they prove to be greedy and all about their pockets, unfortunately. And actions speak louder than words, They didn't even send an email, email to let everybody know, to let all the ticket holders know. They just did a post on their Instagram, like super unprofessional. People would have showed up the next day had they not done like a last minute Instagram post. And like, you know, word spread like wildfire in Vegas. There was tons of Lovers and Friends festival goers, and it was pretty much like word of mouth of how people found out. That's how I found out, through my Uber driver, who heard it from another person, who heard it from another person. So, you know, I was talking to my brother, because my brother really thought that like it was over for Lovers and Friends Fest, and I was like, no, you know, I feel like to make up for this year, you know, this year's disaster, next year they're gonna have to put some people in the lineup that are like so good people are not gonna be able to say no to that. I don't know how they're gonna do that, because this year's lineup was fire. Like Snoop Dogg was gonna be there, Too Short, Lil Wayne, Sierra, Usher. There was so many like really, really good acts, and I don't know how they're gonna possibly be able to top this year's lineup. It's gonna be so hard, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see if there's even a Lovers and Friends festival, or if this is the end for Lovers and Friends festival. So that, my friends, we shall see. Only time will tell. All right, so I think that does it for the first Goldi Luxe podcast, and thank you so much for sticking all the way until the end. I hope I gave you guys enough content this first episode. I hope you guys got to know me a little bit better, and I look forward to making many more awesome episodes and, you know, creating a community of respect and you know, openness. I want to be very like transparent and open with you guys, and I just hope that we can have like a very close bond. I really do. And yeah, again, thank you for sticking until the end and hearing me out, and I hope to see you on the next one. I love you all. Thank you so much.